I'm discussing today what the astrology most likely means over the next year and a half until the end of 2020. So we've discussed that this is a 500-year alignment, actually also a 750-year alignment. And it is interesting, in the British Parliament in the UK, one of the members of Parliament pointed out that the situation the UK finds itself in now, in early April 2019, is very unusual, and the person said actually this had not happened in 800 years. So this is a match with the astrology we discussed: Pluto, Saturn, Capricorn, and then Jupiter joining next year 2020. That is indeed an absolutely rare moment in astrology. And wherever we look in the Western world, we see these subjects that I had discussed. The rule of law, what is a democracy, how is a democracy to change itself and to keep track with time and stay modern and alive. We see these issues not only in the UK, of course, totally unique situation for them, but also in France, where the establishment gets challenged now from within, which is akin to a revolution, the French style. Then we have in Spain a very unique situation where the rule of law is built on a new constitution that's only 40 years old, but it is laid on top of an old structure of law that's hundreds of years old, and where a situation like Catalonia, that is essentially a political, sociological event and should be handled in those ways, is now handled in a criminal trial that is going to take until July to hear all the 500 witnesses, and then until October, until the judge in Madrid will give his sentence. The specialist lawyers who are following this trial are actually saying that possibly the sentence is already written. I don't want to comment on that. We keep an open mind to see how this whole Catalonia situation pans out. At the same time, Spain is going through a general election, and the surveys and polls are suggesting that Sanchez will come out with a much better result for his own party, the Socialists, but due to the internal switching and seismic shifts of the parties, it actually doesn't change much, and he will have to seek alliances with precisely the same people, the independents on the Basque, the Catalans and others, who actually took his budget down and cost the election. So we'll see what happens there. And in the United States, we have another situation where the deep state was trying to do what they had in mind, and they have now pretty much been stopped. But we don't know how this goes on with the astrology, because, as I explained, 2020 has a lot of surprise written into the astrology, and almost any scenario is thinkable. We cannot exclude anything that would happen in societies with these astrological alignments we're going through in the next, say, 18 months up to the end of 2020, when there will be the election. So I had said before, and at the moment I would say the same, that Trump is most likely going to be re-elected. But beyond that moment, 2021, when Saturn Jupiter move into Aquarius, we don't see yet how the economy will function. The personal astrology of Donald Trump has been looking positive right now, very positive, with Jupiter in Sagittarius on his natal moon position, eclipse moon at his birth. But as Neptune moves in the next 2 to 3 years towards the end of Pisces, he starts building 90-degree squares to the Gemini and Sagittarius alignments that are repeated both in Trump's personal astrology, which is linked to the United States chart 1777. So the Neptune position in Pisces is going to affect both these birth charts, America 1776 and Trump. When Neptune gets involved, as we see now by transit and in birth charts, what happens is a dissolving of the discussion, dissolving of boundaries. Oftentimes it comes with a lack of confidence, where all of a sudden levels of confidence go down inexplicably, and when Neptune goes into positions that dissolves a situation very mysteriously. For instance, we saw now in the last few weeks, as Mercury traveled forward and backward and now forward again through the line of Neptune. It's like a sailing boat coming around a buoy. And during this time we've seen vast levels of confusion with distortion in the media, disinformation, but also confusion in the people. For instance, they don't know how to vote, they don't know how to bring their society forward. And in the context of all of this, it's fair to say that Europe as a structure, European Union, is slowly but surely also dissolving. And by the end of 2020, with the alignments coming up, it's very hard to tell what of the structures and institutions is still going to stay the same. It's more likely that there is going to be a very heavy-duty transformation coming in all of institutions, banking, finance, economy, government institutions, as well as education, science, medical services. It affects pretty much all aspects of life. So the next 18 months towards the end of 2020 is very active astrologically, and we see everything surely beginning to shift around in all of the countries we're looking at, where serious change pointing to a new future is taking place. So while there's a certain amount of uncomfortable uncertainty, we don't know what's going to happen, the astrology itself is, I would say, liberating, however only after a very heavy contraction of energy that is going on now. Has started already in January 2019, it's really lasting a full 2 years until in early 2021 we have a new chart in January with Jupiter and Saturn moving into Aquarius and bringing about a much more networked atmosphere. However, the square to Uranus in Taurus points to technological changes, big changes that could technologically alter how we do business as a mankind. And this then moves on with Saturn way into 2025 when it will meet Neptune. And this speaks to us of hard weather changes which we see now. For instance, in America there are large, vast tracts of lands underwater. The snow hasn't even melted yet, so there's more water going to come in, and this will seriously affect the food chain and the production of food. This will in turn also change the economy. So there's a lot to consider and to observe what's going on everywhere, which will affect the way we live.
Pero está la cuerda.